Good day everyone, my name is Remy Casa and we were going to tackle about the malabsorption syndrome. We are going to discuss about the pathophysiology, the signs and symptoms, etiology, definition, and also the medication and laboratory tests of the syndrome. So first, what is a malabsorption syndrome? Malabsorption syndrome is an umbrella term for a wide range of disorders that affect your ability to absorb nutrients from your food. Malabsorption syndrome can lead to indigestion, even malnutrition, not from a lack of eating enough nutrients, but from an inability to absorb them. Malabsorption syndrome is a condition where the small intestine cannot properly absorb nutrients from the food, leading to deficiencies in vitamins, minerals, proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. For our statistics, mortality and morbidity rate, ito lang yung nahanap namin na general. So, malabsorption is a common gastrointestinal disorder that affect 10 to 25% of patients. The prevalence of malabsorption can vary depending on the type of malabsorption.
So, let's proceed sa may etiology part ng malabsorption syndrome. So, sa etiology part nito ay nahahati sa tatlo, which are the luminal phase, the mucosal phase, and the post-absorptive phase. So, sa may luminal phase, ang main problem dito ay ang improper digestion ng pagkain within the intestinal lumen. So, this happens where there is a deficiency of digestive enzymes and bile salts. Kasi ang number one cause ng luminal phase ay ang pancreatic insufficiency. So, nagkakaroon ng pancreatic insufficiency since nagkakaroon ng damage yung pancreas sa pag-produce ng digestive enzymes na amylase, lipase, and protease. Siyempre, kapag nagkaroon ng damage sa pancreas, maglilid ito sa enzyme deficiency na magpre-prevent sa proper breakdown ng nutrients or ng carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So, ang example ng condition na ito or under ng pancreatic insufficiency ay ang pancreatitis and cystic fibrosis. So, sa pancreatitis, long-term inflammation siya ng pancreas. It is often caused by alcohol abuse, gallstones, or autoimmune diseases. Sa cystic fibrosis naman, it is a genetic disorder that causes thick mucus to block the pancreas sa pag-block sa pancreas, which prevents it from secreting enzymes. So, another cause is bile salt deficiency. Since bile salts are produced by the liver and it is stored in the gallbladder, kapag nagkaroon ng or kapag hindi enough yung bile salts, hindi ma-absorb yung fats ng maayos, which can lead to steatorrhea or the greasy stools. And another thing is magkakaroon din ng deficiency sa may fat-soluble vitamins, which are the vitamin A, D, E, and K or ADE. So, ang conditions na nakapaloob sa bile salt deficiency ay liver cirrhosis. So, next phase is the mucosal phase. So, sa phase na to, ang main problem is sa may intestine, which is hindi niya na-absorb ng mabuti yung mga nutrients na kailangan sa katawan. So, ang nangyayari dito is Kapag nagkaroon ng damage sa lining ng small intestine or kapag hindi to na-function ng maayos, maaring magresulta to sa deficiency ng essential vitamins, minerals, and macronutrients. So, ang mga conditions na nakapaloob sa mucosal phase ay first is the celiac disease. So, celiac disease is an autoimmune disorder where the body's immune system attacks the small intestine after eating foods containing gluten. Yung gluten, ito yung nakikita sa wheat, sa barley, at sa rye. Tapos, another thing is, sa celiac disease, nadadamage yung intestinal villi. Yung intestinal villi is yung tiny finger-like projections na tumutulong sa pag-absorb ng nutrients na kailangan natin sa katawan. So, syempre, kapag nagkaroon na ng damage yung villi or intestinal villi, maaring mag-lead ito sa malnutrition, sa diarrhea, and weight loss. So, next condition is the Crohn's disease. So, ang Crohn's disease naman ay chronic inflammatory condition that can affect any part of our digestive tract. Pero ang mostly na inaapektuhan nito ay ang ating small intestine. So, ang nangyayari dito ay nare-reduce yung ability ng intestine sa pag-absorb din ng nutrients. Then, the last one is the tropical sprue. So, ito naman ay rare intestinal infection na nangyayari sa tropical and subtropical regions. So, dito, nagkakaroon din ng damage ang intestinal lining, which results to poor absorption of fats, carbohydrates, proteins, and vitamins, especially the vitamin B12 and folate. So, ang exact cause ng tropical sprue is still unknown, but it is believed to be linked to chronic bacterial infections. So, sa mucosal phase, ang main issue is the absorption, while sa luminal phase is digestion. Then, yung diseases na connected dito is yung mga diseases na may damage yung intestinal lining, such as the celiac, the Crohn's, and the tropical sprue. So, let's proceed sa next phase, which is the post-absorptive phase. So, sa phase na to, ang main problem is the transportation of nutrients into the bloodstream and sa lymphatic system. Since hindi effective yung transportation ng nutrients sa mga organs na kinakailangan ng nutrients, maaari itong mag-lead sa deficiencies and serious health complications. So, ang mga complications or conditions na under ng phase na ito ay number 1 is intestinal lymphangioectasia. So, in here, this condition is rare, wherein yung lymphatic vessels na nasa loob ng intestine ay nagiging dilated and blocked. So, kapag ganun, yung mga fat-soluble vitamins na na-absorb through the lymphatic system can lead to fat malabsorption. protein loss and swelling dahil sa low protein levels. Then next is the Whipple's disease. So same sila ng intestinal lymphangiectasia na rare, pero ito ay bacterial infection, rare bacterial infection na nakakaapekto sa small intestine and interferes with the nutrient absorption and transport. So, ang bacteria ng Whipple's disease ay Tropeirima wimpelii, which invades the intestinal wall of our body. Then, isang pa dito is na-damage or sinisira niya rin yung mga villi, which causes the blocking of absorption of fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. Then, it can also spread to the other organs like the heart, brain, and joints. So, next condition is intestinal ischemia. So, paano nga ba to nag-o-occur? So, this occur when the blood flow to the intestines is reduced or blocked, preventing the transport of absorbed nutrients into the bloodstream. So, this can happen due to narrowed or blocked blood vessels or blood clots din. Then, kapag naging severe na yung condition na to or hindi na agapan kaagad, it can cause intestinal damage and malabsorption din. So, ang problem sa phase na ito ay yung transportation ng nutrients into the bloodstream or sa lymphatic system. Then, yung tatlong conditions na na-mention earlier, pine-prevent niya yung katawan natin from properly using the nutrients that it absorbs. So, sa etiology ng malabsorption, may tatlo. Yung luminal, yung mucosal, and post-absorptive. First, sa luminal, ang main issue is yung digestion. Then, sa mucosal is yung absorption. Then, lastly, yung post-absorptive is transportation. So, kapag hindi na-diagnose kaagad and hindi naagapan, syempre maaari itong mag-lead sa severe complications such as malnutrition, organ damage, and weight loss din. Kaya kinakailangan ng early treatment and early diagnosis para hindi lumala.
And for our signs and symptoms, first we have the steatorrhea or fatty foul-smelling stool, abdominal bloating or discomfort, unintentional weight loss, muscle wasting, excessive gas or flatulence, and chronic diarrhea or loose stool. For our laboratory tests, first we have the fecal test. Fecal test is commonly used to diagnose malabsorption syndrome by analyzing stool samples for various abnormalities related to nutrient absorption. These tests help identify conditions like fat malabsorption, intestinal infection, or digestive enzymes deficiencies. Next, we have the blood test. Blood test is to check for deficiencies in essential nutrients like iron, vitamin B12, folate, vitamin D, and calcium. And low levels may indicate malabsorption. have also endoscopy is a procedure used to diagnose malabsorption syndrome by directly visualizing the gastrointestinal tract. It involves inserting a flexible tube with a camera or endoscope through the mouth or the anus to examine the digestive organ. For an upper endoscopy, we have the esophagogastroduodenoscopy or EGD is a typically performed to inspect the small intestine, stomach, or duodenum. It helps diagnose conditions like celiac disease or Crohn's disease, which can cause malabsorption. During the procedure, small tissue may be taken from the intestinal lining for further analysis, particularly to look for the damage as caused by celiac disease or the volus atrophy. We have also colonoscopy. In some cases, a colonoscopy may also be performed if the cause of malabsorption is suspected to be involved in a lower gastrointestinal tract. So we prepared 3 nursing diagnoses here. So first we have altered gastrointestinal function, flatulence, bloating related to malabsorption and incomplete absorption. Next, we have imbalanced nutrition, less than body requirements associated with muscle wasting, weight loss, and anemia due to inadequate nutrient absorption. Next, we have the fatigue, generalized weakness, and low energy levels related to nutrient deficiencies and poor absorption. And for the assessment, we have the subjective. Patient reports frequent bloating, flatulence, and abdominal discomfort, particularly after meals, and complaints of persistent fatigue, weakness, and low energy levels affecting daily activities, and also may report diarrhea or loose stools, sometimes with oily or foul-smelling stools or steatorrhea, and also reports poor appetite early, satiety after eating. The objective data, we have abdominal distension and tenderness and palpation, signs of muscle wasting and weight loss evident in limbs and facial structures, pallor, brittle nails, dry skin, and hair thinning, signs of anemia or vitamin deficiencies, fatigue and generalized weakness during mobility assessment, and last we have swelling in the lower extremities. This is a sign of protein deficiency. Our nursing interventions, we have checked for signs of dehydration like dry mouth, low urine output, or dizziness. Also encourage small frequent meals instead of large meals to reduce digestive stress. Advise the patient to avoid foods that worsen symptoms such as dairy foods, and also provide high calorie, high protein foods and vitamins, mineral supplements as prescribed, like iron for anemia, calcium for bone health.
One is monitor weight and BMI regularly to assess for nutritional deficiencies and effectiveness of intervention. We need to monitor the weight and BMI regularly para ma-identify kaagad yung early signs of nutritional deficiencies and kung ma-assess din if effective ba yung mga interventions na ginagawa sa client. Then another thing din is nakakatulong din to sa pag-ensure ng timely adjustments to the treatment plan ng client para ma-prevent yung complications like malnutrition or wasting. So the second one is teach proper dietary management to avoid symptoms that triggers while maintaining proper nutrition. So, dito naman, kailangan natin mag-educate ng mga clients about dietary management. Kailangan natin educate yung mga pagkain na need nilang i-avoid na maaring mag-trigger sa mga sintomas ng malabsorption syndrome. Then, we need to educate them also that kailangan nila yung mga pagkain na puno ng sustansya, and we need to ensure that also for them to have a symptom control and also optimal nutrition despite the malabsorption issues. Then, the next one is monitor the patient's bowel movements, presence of bloating and discomfort levels. Document the frequency, duration, and severity of symptoms. So, dito naman, kapag na-monitor natin yung bowel movements ng client, syempre, na-assess natin yung severity ng condition and na-adjust din yung treatment. Then, sa pag-document naman regularly, nakakatulong din to sa pag-understand ng frequency and yung para malaman din natin yung immediate and effective symptom management para mapabuti yung kalagayan ng patient. So, next is promote nutrient-dense foods that are high in protein and calories to help the patient gain or maintain weight. So, we need to encourage also the clients to eat foods that are rich in protein and calories. Kasi, importante rin to sa pag-maintain or pag-gain ng weight sa mga client with malabsorption. Since kailangan nila ng masustansyang pagkain para makompensate yung mga nutrients na nawala or yung mga nutrients na kinakailangan ng katawan nila. Then we need to ensure that the body receives adequate energy for healing and daily function. So next is, or the last one is, recommend energy boosting foods rich in carbohydrates and protein that promote sustained energy. So dito naman, kailangan din natin silang encourage na kumain ng mga pagkain na rich in carbohydrates and protein para magkaroon sila ng sustained energy. Since crucial din ito sa mga patients or clients na sa mga clients na may malabsorption syndrome, since these foods can help combat fatigue and can support the overall physical well-being of the client by maintaining the energy levels and also promoting muscle mass of the client.
For the medications, the medication for malabsorption syndrome typically involves addressing the underlying cause, restoring nutrient deficiencies, and managing symptoms. The common medications for malabsorption syndrome includes: first, we have the Pancrealipase. If malabsorption is due to pancreatic insufficiency like cystic fibrosis or chronic pancreatitis, medications like Pancrealipase prescribed to provide digestive enzymes like the lipase, amylase, and protease to aid in the digestion and absorption of fats and proteins. Next, we have iron ferrous sulfate and ferrous gluconate for iron deficiency anemia due to malabsorption. Then we have vitamin B12 are often used for patients with severe malabsorption or those with pernicious anemia.
So, next medication is rifaximin. So, ang rifaximin ay isang antibiotic that is primarily used to treat small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So, ang main target nito ay ang bacterial overgrowth and nakakatulong din to sa pag-improve ng digestion and sa pag-relieve ng symptoms like bloating and diarrhea. It can also enhance the nutrient absorption of a client. Then next is prednisone and budesonide. So, ang dalawang to ay corticosteroids na nakakatulong sa pag-reduce ng inflammation sa intestine. Then, it can also restore the normal nutrient absorption by controlling the intestinal inflammation ng isang tao. Then, yung steroids na nakapaloob dito is nakakatulong sa pag-improve ng function din ng intestinal lining. and it can also reduce the symptoms like diarrhea and abdominal pain. Then, lastly is nakakatulong din siya sa client na mapabuti yung pag-absorb ng nutrients sa sa mga pagkain na kinakain nila. Then, next is cholestyramine. Ito ay isang bile acid sequestrant that binds to excess bile acids in the intestine. Prevent nito yung pag-reabsorb ng bile acids. Since meron yung mga condition na bile salt deficiency, yung bile acids ay hindi effectively na nare-reabsorb, that leads to fat malabsorption. So yung gamot na to nagbabind sa bile acids sa pag-reduce or nakakatulong sa pag-reduce ng harmful effects, and nakakatulong din ito sa pag-improve ng fat digestion and absorption. So sa mga patients with fat malabsorption, yung cholestyramine ay nakakatulong sa pag-restore ng bile acid balance, ensuring better digestion of fats and improving also the absorption of the fat soluble vitamins na ADEK. So lastly is the loperamide. So loperamide naman, it is an anti-diarrheal medication that works by slowing down the movement of the intestine. So nakakatulong din siya sa pag-manage ng symptoms of chronic diarrhea associated with malabsorption syndrome, particularly sa mga conditions like Crohn's disease and celiac disease. So nire-reduce niya yung frequency and urgency of bowel movements. Then nakakatulong din siya for better nutrient absorption, and nagbibigay din ng control sa sintomas na kanilang nararamdaman. It can also help in preventing the loss of nutrients. It can also maintain hydration and improve the overall comfort of a client. So sa rifaximin ulit, ina-address niya yung bacterial overgrowth. Sa prednisone and budesonide, nire-reduce niya yung inflammation. While sa cholestyramine naman, nakakatulong siya sa fat absorption. Then sa loperamide, nakakontrol niya yung diarrhea. So ang main function nitong mga gamot na to is to improve, or the main purpose ng medication na ito is to improve the digestive health, the control of the symptoms, and especially the nutrient absorption, which is crucial sa patient's recovery and overall well-being. So now let's proceed sa pathophysiology ng malabsorption syndrome. So the process begins with an underlying cause that disrupts normal digestion. So this is under triggering factor, yung unang step. So yung triggering factor, it can be pancreatic insufficiency, intestinal damage, ganun. For example is celiac disease or Crohn's disease. So hindi magsisimula yung malabsorption syndrome kapag walang condition na mag-trigger sa syndrome. Then, yung mga factor or yung mga underlying cause, yun yung nag-interfere sa body's ability to properly break down and absorb the needed nutrients sa ating katawan. So, sa second step, ito yung impaired digestion. So, syempre, kapag lumala na yung triggering factor, then kapag hindi rin naagapan kaagad, syempre, may tendency na ma-compromise yung digestion. Then, syempre, kapag nangyari yun, food cannot be broken down effectively into smaller absorbable components. So, kunwari sa pancreatic insufficiency, syempre, nag-lack na or there's a lack of digestive enzymes that prevents the macronutrients from being properly digested. So, syempre, kapag undigested yung mga macronutrients, this leads to undigested food passing through the intestine, which reduces the nutrient availability of the food. And syempre, hindi rin effective yung pag-absorb ng nutrients na kailangan since undigested yung pagkain. So, next is the third one is the impaired absorption. So, dito naman, kahit merong mga nutrients na nabobroken down, yung damage na nangyari sa intestinal lining may not be able to absorb them efficiently. Syempre, hindi nga na-digest ng mabuti. May tendency rin na hindi rin ma-absorb ng mabuti. Kasi, kapag hindi na-broken down into absorbable components, syempre madadamage yung lining ng intestine. So, for example, is yung condition like celiac disease. 'Di ba siya intestinal inflammation. Then na-damage yung yung intestinal villi. So, kapag na-damage yung villi, syempre mare-reduce yung surface area for absorption. Then when that happen, it can result in nutrient loss that leads to deficiency in vitamins, minerals, and macronutrients. So, the fourth step is the impaired transportation. So, syempre, kahit may na-absorb na konting nutrients, syempre, kailangan na ma-transport into the bloodstream and sa lymphatic system and sa mga organs na kailangan ng nutrients. So, in conditions like intestinal lymphangiectasia, 'di ba na-block yung yung lymphatic vessel ng intestine. So, kapag na-block yung lymphatic vessel, mapre-prevent yung fat and protein transport, which can result to nutrient leakage and malnutrition. So, kaparehas din siya sa intestinal ischemia wherein na-lessen or na-reduce yung blood flow. So, syempre kapag na-reduce, mapre-prevent yung pag-absorb ng nutrient na kailangan sa mga vital organs natin. Then, ayun, kapag na-impaired yung tatlo, yung digestion, absorption, transportation, as a result, syempre magkakaroon ng poor digestion, absorption, and transportation. Then, yung katawan is magiging deficient sa mga essential nutrients, which can lead to weight loss, chronic diarrhea, bloating, fatigue, and vitamin deficiencies. Then, kapag hindi naagapan kaagad or hindi nagkaroon ng early diagnosis or early detection, syempre, magiging severe na siya na maaring ma-weaken yung immune system ng isang client. Then, as well as ma-impair din yung organ function niya. And ma-decrease yung overall quality of life din. So, malabsorption syndrome is a progressive disorder that begins with a triggering factor. So, lagi niyong tandaan na hindi mag-start yung malabsorption syndrome kapag walang mag-trigger na mga condition or underlying cause. Then, it can lead to nutrient deficiencies and systemic complications kapag hindi naagapan kaagad and hindi nagkaroon ng effective treatment para ma-prevent yung long-term health issues. Kaya, yun. Kailangan agad ng early detection and effective treatment para hindi na mas lumala yung malabsorption syndrome. So, yun lang ang pathophysiology ng malabsorption syndrome.